and not really giving them much more thought. This this was how unattached to the body that our soul really is. We are not our bodies. We are so much more. We are so magnificent. And I went uh, as soon as I realized that I was indeed dead. It was like a snap of that I was in this other place. I was no longer on the earth plane. I went into a complete dark situation. It was the most beautiful blackness. And I was not afraid. I was I was just comforted. I was held and cradled and loved, and it this expanse was it was everything and nothing all at the same time. It held knowledge and personality. It was alive. This space, this darkness was perfection, and I was in bliss to be there. I could have stayed wrapped up in this feeling forever, for eons. And I I did not, to answer probably questions coming up, I didn't see anything. I couldn't have even seen if I'd have had a hand, an etherical body hand or whatever. There was no seeing. It was completely all feeling, no sight. Um, but I kept getting beckoning from a nurse. I heard a voice calling my name, and I wanted to just push it away. No, no, I want to be here. And it was loud and scratchy and earthy compared to perfection. It wasn't a pleasant voice, and I just, I didn't want to hear it. And I go this ear because it seemed like it was coming from this side, which is interesting, because a lot of my communication with the light comes through my left side. So I'm kind of having an aha right here. Is, you get these hands, and when I'm looking at myself in the camera, and I'm going, right side human, left side maybe the light. I'm no expert there, but that seems like that's kind of an aha for me right there.
Yeah, and how you particularly pick up information
Exactly.
and receive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I tried to form words to please tell this voice I was fine. I'm fine. I'm going to stay here. But as I tried to form a mouth or, a human communication to tell it no, I was back in my body. So my NDE experience was not in a time frame, but in a experience. It was a little bit limited. It was short. Um, I I felt a little bit gypped because I had read some of the most beautiful stories of NDE experiences, and just seeing the wonder of the other side. And I did see wonder, but well, I didn't see it. I felt the wonder, and I was kind of like, well, where's the rest of it? And I withheld this information when I was asked, because I felt like if I said I was in darkness, that it might be perceived as something bad. And it was not. It was so perfect. It was, to me, very sacred. And so I wanted to protect it, and I kept it deep in my heart. It was mine. It was my experience. It didn't match any other. I started reading all accounts of NDEs. I wanted to find me in there. How come I'm so different? What am I and I would let little flecks of doubt in. Am I not that good? How come I didn't see grandma or the river of life or the beautiful trees or all of that stuff. And it was over 20 years of questioning and uh, just flecks of doubt, because I still knew that my experience was perfect. But it's like, why? And I started expressing that. I was like, and I will use terms, we all have our terms of source or Heavenly Father or God, Jesus, or I don't, when I grew up, Heavenly Father was my most adoring word that I was taught, the most respect, and yet filled with love. So if I use that, I try not to use anything in a religious type of way, but we're all stuck in what we learned as kids too. We take, it's foundation, and we're all of a part of our foundation, right?
Yes.
So sorry, I went off a cliff there. I was trying to make a point, but
Well, I think your point is that your experience was very different, and it sounds very womb-like, very much that idea of, um, the darkness to you was comforting, almost like when people want to go and cuddle in their bed with the blankets over their heads
ah,
and
yeah,
cocoon for a little bit. So you had this opportunity to
I
cocoon,
love that.
to be in the womb, to be completely nurtured. And I think that's significant, especially because at the time, what was going on?
Yeah,
Birth.
birth. I love that. And
Yeah.
what a how kind of them to have kind of held me through this trauma, because I didn't want to get into the whole but it was pretty darn traumatic. And so I think I was being cradled and going, "It's okay, Claudia. We've got you."
You're in
And
the arms of the divine.
in the arms of the divine. I love that. Yes, yes. But my questioning went on for a long time, and I verbalized it, and I verbalized it in many different ways. And this is why something I also wanted to make a point to the audience is, um, we need we need to ask. We need to formally ask for what we want. Basically, it can be prayer. It can be, I mean, anytime. It can be thought. Um, I heard Carolyn May say, everything is a prayer, right? It doesn't have to be formal on your knees at the edge of the bed, to have a relationship with God. It's and work on that relationship. And I felt so comfortable in just talking to God, just on a daily basis. I used to travel in my work, and I put a lot of windshield time in my car, and I started, I knew that I had a guide. Hadn't met him, but I use him, and I'll use source as him only because it's comfortable, not because I believe it's a him or whatnot. I hope that, um, so I will continue to use him because it's comfortable for me. But I felt like there was someone with me, and so I thought, why not talk to him? Why not make a friend? Uh, you know, um, and so I used to say he's my friend in the passenger seat. So I noticed that the screen is frozen, and I'm going to continue to talk until I'm told otherwise. So if I have a few pauses in here, I want to make sure, electronics and all that kind of stuff. So I hope it's still working. So I will continue that I was finally answered. It was probably 20 years later when I started having dreams. And I had a dream of, the funniest looking fairy. He was short, squatty short, with a hair all over him, just exaggerated, beard and short cigar, chubby cigar as well. And he was wearing a fairy costume, a pink fairy costume. And in dream, I could see this strange, funny character and I wasn't afraid. I was like, it was trying to get my attention. And he was so silly that I did move from my regular dream, moved my attention, and was being taught how to become lucid within my dreams. It was, and he would come and wear a different costume every time he came. He came as the Texaco man. He came, with the bow tie and the creased, yeah, and do the little, kind of thing, and just show me he was there, getting me used to the idea of these visits and practicing pulling out of a regular type dream. So, my very first experience with, well, and he would hold up a sign that said, "Come with me," or "Pay attention to this." I didn't hear him, but he was holding up it, wearing these costumes, and this is how I learned to go to spirit school. And so I wanted to share some of my stories and lessons from spirit school. In fact, there's one book you didn't mention, and that is my Lessons from the Edge. And all of my books have a little bit of spirit school in them. It's just hard not to share. Um, and how I was taught, as you can tell, I'm a storyteller, have been all my life. People are like, in fact, my husband says, get it down to, a couple of sentences, because I'm going to give you the whole rose instead of, just the stem or whatnot. It's like, you're going to hear the whole story, background, everything. So, and I'm going to I've shared my sacred NDE with you, and I've never talked on camera about this. So, okay, take a deep breath, and I'm going to get into it.
Yes.
I was brought to spirit school, and there were many. At the time, I just called them important people, ancients, ancestors, and Jesus. It was pretty amazing, pretty cool. And I was given my mission, and I got to remember my mission. They brought me into, it was like a hologram, like on Star Trek or something. I was able to enter a room, and it was like a dining room, a formal dining room at like your old spinster Aunt Mary's house, right? It was kind of musty. It had been well cared for at one time, but she was getting old in years, and so it was kind of dusty. And she had a nice dining table, wooden table, that had this hugest doily on it that she had made, white lace doily, and to cover and protect her dining room table. And on top of the table were many, many potted plants, many, 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 probably, anyway, numerous potted plants. But they were sickly looking and withered, and their branches were like thinner and dried out. They weren't dead, but they were really in the need of water, light, attention. They were, and so I was shown this, and this was my mission. What I'm given there, because I'm a storyteller, I get given a story.
Sure.
I get it in parables and metaphors, because, so that I'm able to understand it, bring it back through dream, wake up, write the story down, and have something presentable to, the world, basically. I'm not on the pulpit and, this is how it is. Because I only know how it is from what I'm given.
Sure.
The picture, the other side is so huge. It's so much.
So they work with you mainly through symbols, is what I'm hearing. And
Symbols.
that you were interpreting those symbols.
Exactly.
So you knew that it was about, giving some food. I think in this case, spiritual food
Exactly.
to others.
What and telepathy, we often use in spiritual language knowing. I
Yes.
was giving a knowing that this representation was of earth, this beautiful doily, this that's kind of musty and been here a while and not really quite taken care of.
Right.
And the potted plants were us, our souls here, are that we're thirsty, we need something more, we need you know and it was kind of like, um, here's your mission, help these plants. And I was like, well, how am I going to do that? And then I was shown the I call it heaven water. It was heaven water. And I try to think of better words in earth language. There's not one better than that for me. So
Heaven water.
heaven water.
Yeah.
And I was shown that I was going to be able to bring some back with me. And so as I was getting ready to leave, they had gotten heaven water in to-go cups, like McDonald's, with the lid. They're hilarious. They are.
The sense of humor is strong. Yes.
Oh my goodness, they think they're so darn funny. But it was definitely memorable, right? I'm like, here I'm in this beautiful place.
Like, there's crystal vases and
yes. and I got a plastic to-go cup, it's like, and there was a table full of them, all full of the water. Well, my humanness went over and started putting them armloads full, right? I've got like 4 on the bottom.
You need the to-go carrier.
And exactly. And they're the big ones, what is that, a 12 ounce or something? And so I've got 4 here and then 3 here. And then I put 2 on top. So I'm like trying to carry this stuff like this. And the minute I turned from the table and took my first step, boom, the top 2 fell down. I still was struggling with the other ones, but there they were, splashed all over the floor.
All that heaven water to waste.
And I went, I'm so sorry. I'm in front of.
You feel the awkwardness of the humiliation of the moment.
I felt like a human gluttony, kind of like I took way too much. And now, I've wasted heaven water, and I was really upset about it. And I looked up, so I got a little bit of a runny nose. I have a cold today, sorry, in the middle of this. And I turned, and they were all smiling and kind of doing a chuckle.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am so sorry. This was all my fault, and I shouldn't have, And they were like, it's okay, tee hee hee, kind of, humorously, and said, there's plenty, and you may come back anytime you need to come and get more. So
you don't need to try to carry it as much as you can carry. You can take one little cup, and that'll be enough.
That'll be enough, and I can come back. Exactly. So I have been very blessed that there are so many times in dream, and in those first years, they were every couple of nights. They have slowed down quite a bit. So have I. I'm 71 now, so it's like I'm getting slower. But I received many dreams that I called from spirit school, and I'm not sure how much time, but I'll share a couple of them with you if you would like.
I think that that's accessible for people because, there are other folks that have dreams where they have these wonderful connections that spirit has brought to them. Maybe it's a spirit loved ones that's offering their visitation, and those are very comforting and loving. It's not any of that confusing, what I call psychobabble dreams. Like,
Exactly. I love that. Yeah.
there's a clarity that happens when you're working with spirit, but they do work largely with symbols, because that is a language of spirit, and so that's to be expected in spirit school.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, so the dreams, it's a very accessible place for many people. And if you're not getting those kind of dreams, you might not be in the phase for it, but you also might have what I call sleep homework. You might have to get yourself into a better pattern with that sleep, because it's in that deep REM sleep that most of that can happen.
And it is something that I had to practice doing, because I had a knowing that dreams were very important. And so I would really work to, that first theta as you're falling asleep, and sometimes you jerk awake as you're kind of falling. And that's a really important layer right there between awake and dream. I've seen, and it doesn't last very long, but this is sometimes where I see many of my dead friends or relatives will pop in for just that few moments, and I'll go, oh my goodness, I just saw, such and such. I've had many, many longer experiences in dreams, but usually that's where, when they first passed, within a couple of weeks, when I start to go to sleep, that's when they come and just say, I'm okay.
Yeah, because your active logical mind is falling asleep.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you're more accessible to them.
So if you're not, audience, if you're not remembering those type of things, keep a journal by your bed. And I would literally just in the dark hold the journal up and just write 3 or 4 words.
Yes.
And go back to sleep. And I mean, write it terrible, but enough that I could kind of recognize, oh yeah, because you think you're going to remember it, and you don't. It just
You
doesn't.
don't. No, because you're falling back into the abyss.
Yes. So if I write something like yellow Volkswagen, or whatever, just some, and then in the morning I'll go, oh yeah, and then I'll get kind of a recall of it. And the more you practice, and then journal what you remember, it's amazing, because it will also come in layers. And that yellow Volkswagen that I just said could be really something important in a year or something. Then you go backwards and go, oh my goodness.
That's why I was saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, I dropped my
So yeah, dreams, that's a great one to work with. What are some other ways that you can work with spirit school?
I would ask. It took me 20 years of asking, and sometimes, and I would set up candles and get on my knees and pillows and everything, and do a fervent prayer. And then sometimes I would just ask in my car, please, I really want to know you, spirit guide. Will you come to me, or will you show me you, or and before he started coming to me in costume, I still walk a lot, but at one point I'd walk the trails in Colorado near the Air Force Academy, and I had walking sticks, and they would click, 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 click. And the whole time that I would walk, I'd say, where are you, my spirit guide? Who are you, my spirit guide? And I would get a white butterfly, not the field moss that you would get, but something really kind of exquisite that was different, that would, kind of flutter like in front of me or on the side of me for just a few moments, something. And I dumbly just go, kind of ignore it and just keep going and going, who are you, my spirit guide? Who are you? And then I'd get a white bird that would fly, and it would kind of duck around me and, and spend a few moments with me. And he would always send something white. It was just funny. And I just had many, many experiences with things on the trail that my spirit guide was showing me, but it wasn't connecting, right? It just took me forever, my humanness, to go, oh my goodness, my spirit guide is really trying here.
Yes, I think that's a good point. You have to do the what I call the gentle ask. You can't do a demand. It has
Yes.
to be a gentle ask of connection. And then in that, you have to be aware of the glimmers of
I
how
love
spirit
that.
shows up, because it won't necessarily be the burning bush of the Bible.
That we're waiting for that. We're waiting to, have this full-on conversation.
And
And
it's a subtlety, and it's almost like a quick text message that comes in.
exactly, exactly.
And then you were able to put together, oh my goodness, look at me not paying attention,
Mhm.
demanding that it come in these kind of ways. And here it is. Here's this gentle, I am
Mhm.
with you
Or
in.
those thoughts that come in that don't feel like yours, but you go, "Where'd that come from?" or whatever, and we shake our head and toss them aside, and it's like, until I got one of those billboards that said, "Trust." Listen to that voice. It is you're being talked to, and you're not paying attention. So yeah, it took him holding something up to to go. Come on, Yeah.
And I think the other aspect of this would be the walking and the nature. So the walking
Mhm.
is it kind of babysits that left brain, that logical mind, because it's having something to do, it's having to keep you steady, keep
Right.
you on the path. But then you're in this nature vista, and there's just a different opening that happens with a person when they're in that mode. And so for you, that was an example of a walking meditation,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so that you became more accessible. So many people, they find more success in a movement meditation than they do in sitting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The folding the laundry is a big one. You're just not you're in task and your mind isn't busy.
Yes.
So or loading the dishwasher. Those times if you get something that feels different or whatever. I mean, I had a friend, oh my goodness, that gets me into a whole nother story, but I lost a friend that, and it was in those early years that, and I had expressed how I had missed her. I happened to be at a red light in front of her restaurant, and I just said, "Oh, Amanda, I miss you so much." And I thought I heard her in my car. Wasn't quite sure. It's like I better trust this. But later in the day, when in front of my dryer and I'm folding clothes, and she was like, "Hey, I'm here," and I really heard her. I knew that she was talking to me, and so those times of mindless tasks can be really as important as intentional meditation and that.
Yes.
So I guess our message is we were, talking how do I get in touch with my spirit guide or whatnot.
Mhm.
Ask. Your intent has to be sincere. It also has to be on a time frame that is with the other side. You're not going to get anything that you're not ready for.
That's right. In your particular spiritual development, because sometimes people think this is an instant mashed potatoes kind of thing, and
Mhm.
that's not what this is.
Yeah.
It takes time to develop and to have that greater understanding. It's like when you read a book at a certain age and then you pick it up later on and you're like, how did I miss this?
How did I miss that?
How did I miss this? Look at the magic that is there for me. And so part of spirit school, what I'm hearing you say is, of course, the dreams, the lucid, those kind of events, but also giving time to the meditation with
Mhm.
spirit and being aware that spirit school is not going to be like going and sitting in a class per se. It is that happens in that everyday life.
Yes, that true. But in my spirit school, and so I'll get a little bit more into that since that's our title today.
Yes. Mhm.
Is there are times when I have been in an actual class where I know that there are all kinds of students around me, and when I say students, I want to laugh because I was not a good student in school. For me to be so excited to go to when I wake up and go, oh, I went to spirit school last night. It's like that is not how I woke up and was going to go to school. In this life, it's kind of funny. Um, but the teachers are so patient, and they are rooting for you and wanting, you to get it. And we, as you were just speaking, and earlier we were just speaking about foundation.
Mhm.
It's like, why wasn't I given, or why isn't our humanness given this information right away? Or, when we ask the big questions, it's like, why don't those answers come? That great big answer. And it's like, our heads would explode if we didn't have that solid foundation. And so they build one of my spirit school. It literally has a title that said, cause and effect, or this is our class of layering. And they lay lesson upon lesson upon lesson as they have built my foundation, one spirit school at a time. And so, for like our conversation that unfortunately doesn't last that long. I could just talk all day. We just have such a kinship here. But I have to write them, and then I write them in my book so that I can share the full on experience.
So let's just parse this out just a little bit more so people can understand. When you're talking about sitting in a classroom, that is you remembering
Mm-hmm.
in dream form
Yes.
that you went to spirit school that particular night.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily happen on a certain night of the week,
Right.
or anything like that. It just happens. It's one of those floating.
Happenstance, whatever. Yeah.
And then when you're in the dream, you're getting a sense of other students around you. Do you remember what they look like?
No,
Or you just have a sense of them as
exactly.
spirit bodies next to you.
Yes. I have no only feeling. Not, I know that they're all there. I know that I'm beside many others, but there's no sight, or I don't speak to them. My focus is, I even know, I don't even see my spirit guide, though I know he is beside me. The only one that I remember is my teacher right in front of me.
So the teacher in front of you is addressing, however many people are there
Right.
that night.
Right. But taken as individual, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
There was kind of a stage, and I was brought up on this stage and sat in a chair. Now I can watch me. I'm outside of me and watching me, because it's dream, right? you
Could
can
be anywhere.
So I'm in a chair facing however many people. I have no idea. Probably, anyway. And there were rotating bubbles around me. They were the most, it was like a soap bubble, but there were so many colors that I had
Like
never
an orb of light.
seen. Or exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was, how you look at a soap bubble and you can see through it, but you can see the colors on the outside.
The iridescence.
Yes. But they were not human colors. They were different.
Yeah, the colors in the different planes, the astral plane, it's very different from how we perceive colors here on the plane.
Right.
Yeah, good point.
So there were 12 of them, and they were rotating in front of me. And as I looked at them, it was me inside of these bubbles, just slowly rotating. It was like, there's Claudia sitting in this chair. Well, this one's Claudia sitting in this chair, right? Just over and over. And it was real. It was like it was recording what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I was encouraged by the teacher to to do something different. Stick out my tongue, whatever, wiggle my nose, make a funny face. And as this bubble would come around, it would capture that little movement. It was different than just the plain Claudia in the other bubbles. It's hard to explain, but the one that they brought in front of me took on whatever I was doing at that moment. So sticking out my tongue, and then that bubble.
Like little Polaroids, but probably more like what we have on our phones today, that it can capture little movements
Yeah.
sometimes in that frame, freeze frame.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it continued, and it floated off. This Claudia sticking her tongue out for that moment. It's now alive, and here's a bubble of Claudia sticking her tongue out. Well, the next one, Claudia is, doing a little nose thing, or, whatever.
Her face is frozen in time in the photo. When they say, making weird expressions with your face.
But it was still, it was alive. It,
Right.
it wasn't a picture. It was a hologram type thing, I guess.
Little videos.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Each time one of these movements went off, another one replaced. So there were constantly new spheres for me to be able to do a movement. And what was given to me is the times in our lives when we're at a crossroads, a big decision, possibly a divorce or going to school or some life changing, an accident, something like that. When we're at those points in our lives, they are captured and they go on. Somewhere out there, I'm still married to my first husband.
Like a parallel universe.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I didn't have children in one life. I mean, those
I
kinds
see.
of things go. And I was so amazed at, as I'm learning, and the teacher is like, what are you getting from this? And it's like he's pulling the thoughts from me, and I'm going, well, there are so many of my spheres, and they're going off. There must be all kinds of different dimensions for these to go off and learn. So, to continue to expand and have a life as something different. I mean, the concept, and I'm so sorry, and I wish I had better language, to express this, but just this little seed. If I that though everything that we do in this life is important and it's captured, and we are learning from everything that we do. It was, and as this patient teacher was like trying to pull my thoughts, and I was expressing, it's like, well, there must be, if I'm doing this and everyone's doing this and we all have these spheres of us doing different things, there must be so many dimensions out there, and he's doing this.
Multiverse. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's so I was being shown that this is so much bigger than this little. I don't want to diminish our earth life because it's so important. I don't want to put anything of we're in a play, it's not that important, blah blah blah. Everything we do, experience, learn, we bring back with us. It's all important. Our every single day is
So that's
exactly.
one example of what you learned at Spirit School
Mm-hmm.
when you attended. And could you get a sense of when you were able to move into other levels of classes? Or did you get a sense that you were with some of the same spirit, other souls with you? Or you just had a sense that that they were kind of anonymous, that
They
you were
were
talking
anonymous.
about?
Yeah.
And
I had no connection other than I knew I wasn't alone, mostly because I was on a stage, so I knew that there were people learning, that I got to be the guinea pig on the chair that, showing that example. But the one of the biggest highlights of that particular class was the patience as I was learning.
yeah.
It was and I use this again and again because it felt like he was pulling that in, yes, and 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 I was getting it, and he was excited that I was getting it, and at one point he turned away to another student. And as I say that now, I didn't see the student, but I knew his back was to me, and he was talking to another student. As I was still expanding on my education, and I kept talking, and I said, this must mean that there are so many dimensions and whatnot out there.
Right.
He turned around and he clapped and he said, "This one gets an A." I didn't get many A's in school, so
you're like, "Why? I got an A."
Really, it was like a really big deal to me to get that A.
Sure.
And I even asked, I said, "Can I take my A back with me? Can I share that I got an A?" And again, the laughter, it's kind of like not laughter, like laughing at you, but like a loving parent or kind of a giggle, chuckle. And he was like, "Absolutely, you go ahead and take that A back with you with your story."
Well, I think the other thing I'm hearing you say in describing of it, it's kind of like when people are learning to read. And my mother long ago told me, you cannot teach another person to read. You can only help them learn. Right? They have to do it themselves. You're just there to kind of coax them to the next level of understanding. And it's like that with most things. And especially with spiritual development, somebody else can't take your learning from you, do your learning for you. That is yours. And the best teachers are going to say, "Well, here's this. Let's see what you do with that." Okay. Oh, you got that. Here's the next thing. Let's see what you do with that. Yeah.
Which brings up a short one. Because what I was shown was a young man looking in a parking lot of a sea of cars everywhere. He couldn't find his car. He was like, and when he finally, walked and finally found his car, but he had no key to open his car. And he stood up on the hood of his car to the sea of cars and just said, "Has anybody got a key?" And it was just, there was no one to answer because I was being shown that we all have to hold our own key. No one can start our own car, right? Our car. Everybody has their own car. I love that things are given in such a graphic and easy explanation for me.
Yes.
That's
you can't do someone else's spiritual homework for them. They have to do it themselves. Yes.
And so in those early days, again, right after this particular lesson, I was in a hallway in a hotel, that's got a little table with the flowers on it down the hallway between certain doors. And there was just door after door after door. And I didn't know, I kept walking the hallway looking for my door. And I finally got to one of the doors that I just knew was my door. And I stood in front of it and it wouldn't open. And I was knocking and I was kind of pushing on it. And it was like, I know this is my door.
Yeah.
No, this is my door. And, I hear, and I'm trying to go and recall here to remember the exact words, but it was like, why do you knock waiting for someone to open the door when you carry your own key? And I don't have a key. And he said, on my left wrist, left again, just thinking, was a satchel. I carried my own key on my own self. It was like, don't wait and knock on the door. Get your own key and open your own darn door, kind of thing. So
there you go.
The lesson has been endless.
I think that it's an excellent point because people might think, well, can Claudia take me to spirit school with her? Can I get into that? How do I get into that?
Yeah.
And you have to be in that space of, I would like to go to spirit school. I am open to how this is unfolding to me, and I'm going to embrace the opportunities that come my way and see how it shows up for me. And it won't be replicating Claudia's experience or Willa's experience or anybody else's experience. It has to be your own. It's a personal journey that you're on, and it's not like Hogwarts, right? You can layer at a certain age. Spiritual development has to occur when anybody's ready. There's almost like this
Ready.
Igniting of the fire within a person in their soul, that there's a willingness to learn makes it so much easier than the stubbornness.
Or on like a sadder note, it could be, the catalyst could be a loss, a personal loss. Now brings that, it ignites something, and it's like, because I lost my dad when I was 16, and I wanted to know where did he go? What's he doing now? Yeah. What's the other side like? I just couldn't jump on the bandwagon that was all choirs and harps. He was not that type. I was like, he's got to be bored out of his mind, kind of thing. And so I wanted to know, it's.
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. It happens usually, through struggle, and the grief is a huge. I would say it's almost like the number one.
Exactly.
On that the mortality issue hits, and they're like, there is something more. There has to be something more. I now need to be on that exploration within my own soul, so that I can make sense of this, but also so that I can continue connection in healthy ways.
I love it. I just love you. You're wonderful.
Yeah, right back at you. I know we just have a few minutes left. Any other thoughts or things that you think would be great for people to know about Spirit School?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay. One that another Spirit School I think I mentioned earlier was Cause and Effect, and the Layering School. Okay. And, we have these big questions, why am I here? Who is God? What are we supposed to do here? It's our big test. Excuse me, my cold is getting worse here. It's like we have these huge questions, and we're waiting for this answer to rain down on us, right? God, prove that you're there, or whatnot. And as we said earlier, it's kind of like your head would explode. So you get these, these particular lessons and whatnot. And so one of them is called Describe Brown. And I'm with my teacher, and he's going, I want you to describe this pillow. And he hands me this pillow, and it's ugly. It's from the 50s. I grew up in the 50s and 60s. And it was one that was on many a couch in those years. It was a kind of a translucent brown fabric, and it had little tiny pink dots of velvet, tiny, all over this brown. I mean, pink and brown. It was, and he said, and he kind of shoved it right into me and said, describe this pillow. And I'm looking at it and going, well, it's brown, and it's, and he's like, no, tell me about it as if I've never seen color before, or that I don't know what brown is. And I was really searching for words that didn't involve color, or how do I describe this? And I said, well, the translucence of it's translucent. You can kind of see through it, and it's like an onion. And as those layers come to the top, it's browner at the top than it is on the sides. And he was kind of accepting some of that, but he said, explain this as if you are on the phone to your son. And he said to Jesse, he's my spiritual son. I can, throw these ideas, toss them about with him. And he just said, this is how hard it is for earth language, heaven language, and the enormity of the information has to be the description. If we have no idea of what they're trying to convey, so we have to learn heaven language a little bit at a time, right? Mm-hmm. And build that foundation, so we don't fall over when the big stuff starts coming, right?
It's such a good point. And the word is ineffable. And that means not being able to put words to an experience.
Yeah.
It's ineffable. How can we appropriately explain what that means or is?
Yeah.
All we can do is try to grip onto some words, but it's the difference between you telling someone the story and them living the story. They have to come to it in their own time.
Exactly.
And it's okay for those who are listening. It's okay that your story or your situation is ineffable. Do your best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do the best. And the people that have had spiritual experiences themselves, you're going to find other people of like mind, like intention that you can talk about with your, the story, and they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, something like that happened to me," and you'll find your people, you'll find your tribe.
Well, we all are, and if you're out in the audience today, you're a seeker. You may not, you may go, "Oh, that Claudia, she's full of baloney," but just the words, just the seeds of possibly other dimensions. I was able to, in one of my spirit schools, I was able to ride through the stars with my guide, we were in one of those spheres, and we were going through the universe. And the stars were talking to me. They knew me. They were saying, "Oh, Claudia's back. This is awesome. How was it? We've missed you." I mean, I came back and sat up in bed and went, "The stars can talk. The stars are alive." I get it if you're looking at me going, "This girl's had too much applesauce this morning." I don't know, but that little seed that I just planted there, and maybe you have that dream yourself, or that opportunity, because all of us are busy at night. We're going places. We are learning. We're in our own spirit schools. I'm not special. Every one of us are magnificent souls, and the other side just they want to bring us to that awareness. And so pick up this little seed, that little word there, that seeking, that you're on this program or another program, and build your foundation, and you're going to get some great stuff out of it.
Beautiful. Oh, that's wonderful. And what a great note to end on. I really appreciate you sharing about, some of your experiences at spirit school. And I hope that inspires other people to really expand their consciousness and their understanding so that they can welcome those kinds of experiences into their own lives and develop their own rapport with their spirit team, because they have so much support as they're going through life. And it certainly helps to know what we know, doesn't it?
I love that. You have a wonderful way of expressing that. Is beautiful. Our own rapport with our own team, and our own team has its own personality, and it's built to fit your personality. So start talking to them, start asking. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I would encourage people, if you would like to do more with Claudia, then you're going to want to come this summer to Lilydale, because for the 2024 summer season that starts on June 21st this year, runs for 10 weeks till September 1st. There's a wonderful program of daily events, message services. We've got wonderful workshop presenters, and the season is just such a highlight for many people. They come every year. They kind of the pilgrimage, either as a day trip or a week or the whole season. And Claudia is going to be here on Saturday, July 13th. She'll be teaching the 10 things I learned when I died. So you got a little bit of the appetizer about that today, folks, but there'll be more that you can learn with Claudia when she comes this summer. So I will put the link in the post for this particular episode, so you can get your tickets for that. And I encourage you to get your tickets now. You can purchase them online through the lilydaleassembly.org website, and you can enjoy lots of other great classes. And I'll have lots of other great shows for you coming up. As I said, this is year 7 of Wednesdays with Willa, and I have a wonderful array of guests leading up to the summer season. And next week, Dr. LaCara Foster is going to be here, and we're going to talk about how to live again after loss, and it'll be another great show. All right, everyone. I'll see you next week for another great Wednesdays with Willa show. And thank you again, Claudia. It really was very special to have you come.
I loved it. It was wonderful.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.